Welcome back to Theology for the Unwanted. I'm your host, Dan Tilson, and across from me, I have my best friend and sports expert, John Byram. What's going on?
You know, I always get concerned how you're going to introduce me on these episodes, but I like that one. That was not bad. You know, happy 250th anniversary of America and 4th of July to you, sir.
I arrived back in the U.S. from Montreal on the 4th of July for vacation. I can't tell you how cool it was to have my passport stamped as they said, welcome home on that day. So
they never tell me welcome home. They'd shoot me a look and tell me to get moving on.
John, we have a special guest with us tonight. Actually, it's our first ever return guest.
Repeat guest.
Yeah, so we've got Jeremy from A Catholic Dad. How you doing?
I'm doing good, guys.
Glad to have you back, man.
Thanks. Very excited.
So for anyone who's new to the show, we are talking to Catholics who have felt unwanted, those who are hanging on to their faith, or maybe you've already left and you're exploring whether or not it's a good time to come back. The answer is yes, we hope. But we're going to talk through some really cool theology developments in the church tonight. You know, Pope Leo just had a brand new encyclical come out, Magnifica Humanitatis. And we're going to talk through the theology of AI. Yeah, I know you might not realize that the church is diving so deep into this, but it's hard to think of something in our lifetime that has impacted us so much and has the chance to propel change, good or bad. And the church obviously thinks it's really, really important to talk about that. Before we jump in, I'm going to ask you, John, anything fun or cool from your week?
I went to go see Young Washington in theaters. And the controversy with that movie is not the fact that a British actor played George Washington, but it was the fact that over 100 scenes in the movie utilized AI.
In a good way?
It was bad. I mean, you could obviously tell it was used. Like, it wasn't great. It's kind of like if you go see like a Marvel movie and they use really bad CGI.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, like I can really tell. Like, I know it's fake, but it looks really fake. That was the problem here, right? It's like this scene of Washington crossing a river was actually shot in a gigantic bathtub in Ireland. And they used AI to build the entire nature scene as if they could not find a river in real life for him to cross.
I don't know if you realize how expensive it is to fly over here to Virginia to film that, where George Washington actually lived.
To fly to Virginia, a US-based movie studio would rather fly to Ireland to shoot one scene.
Well, Jeremy, how's your summer going?
It's going pretty good. We've been doing a little bit of traveling. My son and I and my wife, we've been doing some bowling. We actually got him a bowling alley in our area has that. It's called Kids Bowl Free. And so if you sign your kid up, they can get 2 free games a day. And for like $40, you can buy a parent pass and you get to bowl with them. So we've been doing that, and he's having a blast. He can pick up and chunk a 10-pound bowling ball down the bowling lane.
I hope they have insurance.
Yeah. The bowling alley we go to you feel like it hasn't been updated since like the 70s.
Yeah.
So
most of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think a few dents in their bowling lane are going to change much.
That's fair. Well, I was in Montreal and I posted some photos of some of the churches I visited, and that is where I learned just how many people from Canada are on our page, because they all knew exactly where I was. And I had a good time. I had a really good time. I didn't speak French very well, but it was an experience. It was also a lot cooler up there. But at homeless ministry this past Sunday, there was one woman who we've seen every Sunday since Easter. And she clearly has some developmental disabilities. So she's, a lot slower. And she is so full of joy. This woman made me laugh so hard for hours on Sunday as we were hanging out with her. And what was so impressive to me was, my guess is maybe she's about 60. You never know how someone ends up in the scenario where they're homeless. In this case, if I just had to take a wild guess, maybe a caretaker passed on and she was left alone. But she seemed unaware. It's like, seriously, unaware of just how difficult her life is. And realizing this, that she's, living outside, the day-to-day struggle, trying to find food, and she is so happy. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing, of course, but it just kind of put things in perspective for me that this woman made me laugh for hours. She got really fixated on this one thing. Apparently, somebody told her earlier this week that her goose is cooked. And I know that that's a saying, but she was fixated. Every person she came across, she was like, "What does that mean? Is that like when the chicken crossed the road?" And just like we're trying to just be there and listen with her. Anyway, it was a good time. And yeah, we always say in Sant'Egidio, which is our Catholic community, if you come volunteer with us, you're going to realize how much more you need these individuals than they need you. Oh, that's the beauty of Christian ministry. So, with this new encyclical, this papal teaching document on artificial intelligence, Pope Leo really dives into something brand new for the church. John, our friend Father Diego, he's working with the church on developing this theology for what was that TV show when we were little, Inspector Gadget?
Oh gosh,
Remember that?
yeah.
Yeah. The church doesn't have a fully fleshed out theology yet for that kind of thing. At what point are you no longer fully human? Or let's say like 85% of your body is bionic. At what point are you more machine than human? And we're not anticipating this being a serious future, but the fact that the church is like, we really should be prepared for that question. And Don Diego is working on that. And it's just kind of so cool to hear his insights. But this is a different area of Catholic moral theology. We always think of moral theology as LGBT, divorce, whatever, like the things that are the really contentious issues. This is not. This is how do we develop an ethics for our computers? So, Jeremy, I'll start off because I want some of your thoughts. But my first takeaway was that Pope Leo says we cannot consider AI to be morally neutral. And that's like quite a claim, and it's hard to kind of wrestle with that. I don't even know where to start. Where did you start when you were reading over this?
I remember reading that and reading how he mentions that every AI engine that is out there, the common ones, Gemini, what is there, Claude, Elon Musk, as it was like Grok or something.
Grok, yeah, my car has Grok.
I think the one that started it off was Alexa from Amazon and Siri. I think about that the companies, even if they try to make it unbiased as they can, they are throwing in their thoughts on this. And if I can share a little kind of a funny thing that happened, my wife and I, there's a show that we both love to watch. And in the episode, they had this really kind of on point episode where they were taking letters and they were taking notes and text messages from someone who had passed away and using that to create a person that you could talk to. It was called Matlock on CBS. And one of the things that was really crazy is the whole case was about if this sister that passed away, who was going to run the company, because supposedly as she was dying, her will changed. So they're like, how do we ask her? And they were like, oh, let's create this algorithm. Spoiler alert, they have this AI version of her do this litigation, and it's like, oh, I want this guy to run it. And so they're like, wait a minute. So then they get like a third party to do it, and the answer is different. And they go in the code, and they find out that the other guy had coded it so that anytime his name was mentioned or anything related to him was mentioned, the AI responded positively to him. And I thought, man, that's so crazy. Like the average person wouldn't know to look for that, but it took an expert. And so that's something to think about. It's who is AI favoring, even if it's unbiased. It's like when you go to Google and you type in Google, I don't know if y'all have noticed now, Google has like an AI recommendation, and it got found out that Google they're recommending YouTube videos. And my wife was watching a content creator that was talking about how AI was pushing out these very fake videos as like authentic, like, oh, this is what you should do. But in reality, it was not a good suggestion. But AI was like, oh, we're pushing YouTube, so let's pull this YouTube video that says, oh, this hack is great. When in reality, if you really do it, it's not. So I do believe that yes, that there is there's nothing morally neutral. Somebody behind the scenes is putting their thoughts into it.
So I used to say from moral theology that the moral life begins with grief. If you haven't experienced some sort of loss, some sort of grief, you are not yet able to really truly imitate that suffering that Christ had on the cross. And nobody has to go out in search of suffering. It's just inherently a part of life. And I guess it's wonderful that computers are helping us overcome our challenges. I don't see the encyclical actually taking an anti-AI stance. I see the encyclical as saying we need to ensure that it upholds Catholic social teaching, and not in a political way. It's like dignity, the common good. And John, do you remember the lecture that you and I recently attended with the Boston College theology professor? He said the moral life begins with
vulnerability towards the other.
Yeah.
It's big. That's different than grief.
It is different. I guess with vulnerability, you assume grief is coming, but he had a step before that. And I guess the concern that Pope Leo has, because he actually mentions this, vulnerability is mentioned, believe it or not, 7 times more than the word mercy in this encyclical.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But a computer can so easily leave some people out. Aquinas was actually really clear many centuries ago in saying that the more specific that you try to get, you're actually going to end up leaving someone out. And part of that is because a computer and algorithm doesn't have that same capability towards vulnerability that we have.
Yeah, AI doesn't have the ability to feel, make judgment calls. It's very black and white. And before you have the AI boom of the past year, 2 years that we've been experiencing, we had other forms of it. We just called it something different. When you take a look at like the professional world, you have these HR sites or these HR programs that you use to onboard people, or if you're looking for someone to fill a position.
When I submit my resume looking for a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have a job description and you have a job description and you're looking for certain keywords, right? So you tell this program, we're going to get a lot of applications. These are the keywords I'm looking for. We have been trained as job seekers to play towards those keywords. So as long as your resume says those keywords multiple times, you're going to get past the program check, because it's going to be like, oh, this resume mentioned these keywords X amount of times. They're a 98% match. Now, it's been proven you can submit a resume and say only those 7 keywords from the job listing only on the resume and fill up 2 pages worth, and your resume will get selected. It doesn't take into account your job experience, how long you've worked for, what companies you've worked for. It just looks for keywords. And the problem that we've discovered in the corporate world is that by doing that, we are training these programs to discriminate based upon these keywords. We're always told not to use the same generic words, right? So if you change those keywords, you don't get matched. So it discriminates and segregates based upon what you put in the resume, if it hits those keywords or not. So it may not be actually selecting the best candidate. It may just be selecting the candidate who said managed or organized the most amount of times in the resume.
Do you think it's mostly accidental that these problems happen?
I don't think people do it on purpose. But the issue is that because the way the current economy is, at least here in the United States, when it comes to the job market, every job on average has hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants just looking for a better job or looking for a job if they're not currently employed. So you can't really have one person go through 800, 900, 1,000 resumes in a timely fashion to look for that. So of course you're going to use a software to try to weed out the ones that aren't really for that position. But by doing that, you take that human element out of it and you're allowing a computer to make that judgment call for you based upon verbiage.
Yeah. What I loved about this encyclical is it was so structured. I really like that, almost scholastic, like this feels very academic. It's very religious, but also almost like a computer program.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the themes that come up, it's dignity, common good, which we'll talk about in a minute, vulnerability, human limitations is mentioned over and over again. And shockingly, mercy is only represented 5 times. But I think that Pope Leo is actually trying to get us to go a little bit deeper into what it is that we mean when we say mercy. Jeremy, when you and I have talked before, you're in this, I don't know if you consider yourself a Catholic apologist. That's probably not the right space because that's more of like a defensive. But you're out there and you're sharing the things about the faith that you find to be cool and exciting and attractive. What is it that you think that we need to see more of on Catholic TikTok when we're talking about tough issues or even just the basic tenets of the faith?
I really think that we need a lot more, like you say, understanding and vulnerability of others. Because as you said, I've tried my hand at apologetics, and that's just not my thing. I don't have the time to spend doing research, but I think we don't have enough creators out there trying to really help people in their everyday life. We have so many people out there that want to try to defend a certain Catholic doctrine that's being misrepresented, which is a great thing. But how do you, in a Catholic way, help somebody who's suffering from a dying parent, like my family's experiencing right now? Or how do you reach out to that person who is separated or legally divorced but hasn't gotten an annulment, and how do you help them go through that? Like, how do you help them see that you're still a part of the church? I know many times I've seen some comments on other videos where if someone's divorced, they feel like, well, they can't come to church because they're divorced, but they don't
Yeah.
understand that's they're still with the person, and I think they're kind of afraid. So I think that we need more people out there actually willing to look at the situations that Catholics are in, just like what your show is about, the people that feel unwanted. I think we have too many out there that are trying to, not calling anybody out, but get views, get followers. They find a certain thing that gets followers and they're like, oh, this topic is getting me thousands of followers, whereas this one's only got me hundreds. I'm going to go keep making these videos. And I think that's the unfortunate side. Just like you say with the algorithm, it's pushing out content that is engaging. You know, Unfortunately, I'm seeing this with my students. Attention spans are, in all honesty, getting shorter. I think in adults and in students, and we don't want to sit there and watch a video that's going to just be like an everyday thing. We want to be entertained, and it doesn't matter if it's something that's actually an issue or just something that we're faking. In fact, that's kind of something that Pope Leo even talks about in his encyclical, is this idea of misinformation and twisting information.
Yeah.
I think we need more Catholic content creators not focusing on, oh, let me create rage bait or this. Let me find something that people out there actually will find useful and help them grow in their faith. And that's kind of when I took a break, I really wanted to reevaluate. And I feel like I just want to educate people. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at necessarily defending against some of these other non-Catholic creators. I want to help Catholics who are unsure about things. My favorite comments are when people say, your videos have helped me with my faith, or, I appreciate you actually not. In fact, I had somebody comment that they appreciated that I wasn't out there going after and bashing non-Catholics. But unfortunately, just like you said, John, with business, the algorithm encourages and it rewards engagement. They might say, oh, yes, we push quality videos, but in their mind, quality is not the topic. Quality is about how are people engaging with.
And I think you are so spot on, Jeremy, with this. It's a couple of things you mentioned made me think of several things. Number one, the attention span. That's something that, well, by the way, we're going to be called boomers for this tangent we're about to go on here real quick.
And converts. The two of y'all are converts.
Well, okay, calm down there, cradle cat. No, the whole thing is, in school, when you're given a presentation, you're told you want to open your speech with an attention grabber because you want to be able to hold the attention of the listener, right? Same thing on a podcast, same thing on content creation, whether it's on social media. You need something that makes someone want to sit through your content. I can definitely remember giving a presentation at a conference in college where I think I spent more time on my attention grabber in the very beginning then the rest of my speech, because the rest of my speech I was comfortable in, I wasn't comfortable in creating a way to grab that attention. The second issue is that as a society, we are so used to negative content. Whether you watch the news, whether you go outside, negative content drives engagement. The reason that's an important thing to acknowledge is because that's where we are on social media right now. Those content creators that are getting the views, getting the thousands and thousands of followers, are generally doing it out of the use of negative clickbait, rage bait, like you said, that is used within the first 5 seconds of a video. It's the way to get people to watch that 30, 40, 50, 60-second video that you're putting out there with your opinion or your take on something. And, we were talking about it before, like the content creator that was talking about, can you kiss your girlfriend before marriage? Like, in normal day life, you would not even really think twice about that. But the way that content creator presented it and his tone and the fire behind it is what created the controversy, and that content blew up because he used it within the first 5 to 7 seconds of the video and it spread like wildfire. That's the issue, is we have to combat that clickbait, rage bait, short attention span and be able to engage in those first 5 to 7 seconds of content to bring people out of that algorithm into the content creation that is not so rage baity, that is not so angry and focusing on the negative, but focusing on the beauty and the positive of Catholicism.
So both of you in different ways just touched on utilization or utility versus mercy, which are two things that we kind of see in tension with each other here in this document. And this is where it matters for Catholics who are struggling to really belong in their parish, because I'm not sure that we're framing Catholic social teaching in its fullest form. So there's 4 pillars of Catholic social teaching. The one that everybody knows and does really, really well is human dignity. There's something innate about that. I mean, you want to feel like you have dignity. You want to feel wanted. Therefore, it's easy to understand why that is an important pillar. But the very next step is the common good. And the three of us here, we were chatting before we started recording. This is so abstract to talk about. And quite frankly, it didn't go over all that well when Pope Francis made, the environment the focus of the common good in his encyclical in 2015, because the reaction from everyone was like, why is he inserting, air quality into Catholic theology? Listen, how do we describe it? The common good, it's not like good or bad. It's not quite like goods or services. The common good is anything that exists that helps us live in relationship as a community.
Exactly. And that goes back to human dignity too, right? Human dignity is not just about identifying self-worth, but worth in other people. Catholics in the pews are the body of the church. They are the life and blood that helps show the rest of the world the beauty of the Catholic Church. At the end of Mass, we're told to go out and spread the good news, go out and spread the word of Jesus and just let people know by our actions within our community,
right,
what being Catholic and what the Catholic Church is about. It's always about community. So they go hand in hand. But like you said, it's wild to think that we really don't talk about the common good all that much.
And it's the second pillar pillar of all of social teaching. So we tend to like to think of social teaching as, again, those controversial subjects, whether that's euthanasia, abortion, gay marriage, whatever. But it's actually far more fundamental than that. And the 10 Commandments were about the common good. It was about creating a community that could live together in God's presence. And so, for Pope Francis, when he's talking about like water pollution, it feels a little strange. The sin of dumping pesticides or whatever into the water is not that you killed 7 fish. It's not necessarily that you made 5 people sick. That's trying to take an action and apply a utility to it. It's that you failed to dive into the vulnerability and into the lives of your neighbors. And so a lot of things can be the common good. In that sense, the Eucharist is a common good.
Yep.
Right. But here we have Pope Leo saying that the algorithm is a common good. And that's tough to grapple with. And if it's not true, we're probably pretty darn close to it being true, because how many of us are all going further into these bubbles online? Whatever TikTok you're on, you're starting to see all of the like-minded people. And that impacts us as a community that is not able to experience unity in the same way as we once did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you say that, because just on a not related to anything Catholic, but a while back on my algorithm, it's like you watch one video or two videos, and I watched a couple of videos about 3D printing stuff, because I have a cheap one, and then before you know it, on my For You page, it's like every other video is either Catholic or 3D printing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? And again, it's like you say, you watch that one or two video and the algorithm's like, oh, you like this. Let me push this out for you, or let me push that out for you. And yeah, it's crazy.
And the real wild part about that is with my marketing background, I've noticed this, especially like in my nephew. My nephew, he's 16, and he's big into 3D printing also. In the past 3 years, he has gone through 5 different 3D printers. He just got his newest 3D printer, and this thing's like 4 foot tall. And it's full motion. It X and Y axis, it moves all over the place. It's got multi nozzles for different filaments and all sorts. It is one of the most complicated 3D printers I've ever seen put together. And I know how much it cost. I know because he hits me up every other day asking for money. I don't give it to him. But needless to say, I know how much it costs. But from a marketing standpoint, you use that algorithm to your advantage to sell products also. You manipulate the viewer, the consumer, into buying your product. And yeah, it's super manipulative, which I have an issue with, like when we talk about the algorithm and this idea that the algorithm can be used for Catholicism. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but I think of all these negative ways algorithms are used to manipulate people. And then I hear that, and it's like, that's like Dan and I, we were talking about this beforehand. It was very hard to really kind of wrap my mind around this idea.
For good and for bad.
Right, John, since you said you did marketing, did either of y'all ever watch Mad Men?
I actually didn't watch Mad Men.
Okay.
No.
Well, all right. So Mad Men is about this main character, Don Draper, played by John Hamm. And he's got, to me, one of the greatest lines about marketing and advertising. He said, you get people to buy something by not showing them how much better their life would be with the product, but how much worse their life is without the product.
Oof.
Yep, spot on.
And so there you go. It's the negativity. When you see those 3D printers and you have one, like mine is a very cheap introductory printer. I've had it for 3 years, maybe 4. But someone who wants a 3D printer, if they see a TikTok of a 3D printer doing something that theirs can't do, they now go to that negative space of, well, mine can't do that, so I need that new one, and they go out and they buy it or whatever. So yeah, I exactly understand what you mean, that it's all about, it pushes the negativity.
It is the fear of not having something. It is FOMO to a T. It is, my life is great with what I currently have, but it could be better. And just think how much easier life would be if I was to upgrade.
Yeah.
And you train your brain that it's, the old term for it was fear marketing. It's you essentially use scare tactics to scare the person into making a purchase. And you see a lot of it with insurance companies. They'll be like, fires and homes have gone up 13% in your region. Do you have fire protection? Are you insured for the unexpected? And they show you this traumatic video of a house burning down and this family covered in soot going like, we just lost everything. How are we going to move on? And it's like, don't worry, blank insurance has us covered. And in your own mind, you're a homeowner. You're going like, well, wait a minute. Do we have fire coverage? Do we have accidental destruction coverage?
John does voiceovers.
I have done voiceovers before, yeah.
And I bet you in those commercials now, the fire and the family are AI generated.
That's probably
triggers.
So John
triggers
is no longer doing voiceovers. So,
yeah, they all use computers now.
So this happens to people in the pews all the time. I can't tell you how often I have heard in ministry, do you know how perfect my life would be if I just had this car or if I had 5,000 more dollars to cover? I mean, like legitimate things too, right? They're like 5,000 more dollars to cover groceries. My whole life would be perfect. I've heard people say, if I'm 45 years old and I haven't found the love of my life yet. Everything would be perfect if I just had that. And we really hinge our hopes and dreams on these particular things that we feel left out. But this document is prophetic because it really drives us to dive into those things in our lives that we feel are destabilizing. And it encourages Catholics to really to dive into that vulnerability towards one another. It frames it, though, of course, because we're talking about AI, as an ethics problem. And John, as I was talking with you beforehand, I visited Estonia a few years ago. Estonia borders Russia. It's a tiny country, 1.3 million people, and they're constantly under threat of invasion. I mean, it would honestly just take a couple of hours before they were part of Russia again. And they thought that they had the most perfect way to push the Russian mafia out. They made all of their government services on an algorithm. And actually, it's quite advanced. It's way more advanced than anything we've done in the US. I mean, countless cities have attempted in the United States to basically say, if you qualify for Medicaid, if you qualify for food assistance, whatever, fill out this form and then the money will be spit out and then you don't have to wait in line at an office anymore. Okay. And all of those programs have had pitfalls. This program in Estonia is way, way more advanced. But as Aquinas said, the more specific you try to get, there are definitely guaranteed to be people who are left out in the rules. And in this case, you have a bunch of teenagers in Estonia. They turn 18. They've saved up their money to go backpacking across Europe for a year. And the government algorithm automatically assumes that they have become homeless and starts sending money. Now, in this case, it's not necessarily an evil that's happening. It's just waste. But algorithms fail because there's just no way, or we have not been able to find a way to really dive into people's needs. We've been unable to really harmonize that. So I think that with this document here, it's talking about ethics and computers, but it's challenging us all to go a little bit deeper into our lives, maybe to mature a little bit. I think that's lacking a lot in Catholic social media. And and I also think that in trying to appear smart and as if we have the Catholic faith all figured out, we are expecting people to spit perfect, beautiful, Gemini made answers at them saying, this is what the church teaches, but we're not actually drawing people into the mystery. And that's what we're called to do as Catholics. Now, I guess you could say this is sort of a new mission field. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. It's definitely something that over the last few years has gone from being dances, lip syncing, to full blown ministries and businesses being created around social media. I think back about 5 years ago, I remember watching some of my students just doing random dances, and now here I am. I was like, I'm never going to be on that social media platform, and now here I am, five so years later. But you're right. I think in fact AI is actually making more people seem to be knowledgeable, because not only are you having AIs built around search engines, but now you're having AIs built around religious documents. I think we're all familiar with a pretty prominent Catholic AI that's shown up in the last couple of years, and that's great that you can go to an AI that dives into the catechism, into other documents, but it doesn't take anybody who really doesn't understand the Catholic faith to just type in a question of, well, what about this? And they get an answer. And then, like you say, they can work it a little bit and they can come off as someone who's very, very knowledgeable in the faith, even if they've not been that knowledgeable. And I'm not saying that you can't have people who recently converted and they're knowledgeable, but it's allowing us to put on a disguise of expertise when maybe we've never actually experienced something as a Catholic. Maybe you've never actually experienced your family disagreeing with your decision to, become Catholic. Or, for example, I fortunately, have never had to go through an annulment. So I'm not going to try to speak as an expert on annulment because I've never experienced it. But if I were to type in something in an AI to get a script for that, I could easily do that and then come off as being like, oh yeah, I've never experienced it, but here's an expert, you know,
Yeah.
talk on it. And I think I think you're right. I think maturity isn't related to age. Maturity is related to experience. And once you have that experience, you're able to, like we said earlier, be vulnerable to those who are going through that. And we're like, you know what? I was where you were, and here's how my Catholic faith helped me.
One of the things that popped in my mind was at that conference we were just at, there was a speaker when we're talking about when people use the Bible for negative arguments. You can find anything in the Bible to support your viewpoint if you just look for it. You can easily take any passage and use it for whatever you want. That's the kind of concern with AI is that, yeah, you can use AI for beneficial faith reasons. Like, let's say you're a convert and you're not fully confident on praying the rosary. You can use AI to help yourself to learn how to pray the rosary better. But if you're a Catholic social media person and you want to use that rage bait, that clickbait, you can also use AI to ask questions like, hey, what about this? Is this a part of Catholic teaching? And if the AI disagrees with you, you can argue with the AI until the AI essentially says, well, technically you could make the argument this way. And then they see that and they take and they run with it. Right. So that's always my biggest concern with AI is that while yes, it can be used for that, for the benefit of like a spiritual aid. If you're a person who is looking for that clickbait, looking for that rage bait, looking for something that spews fire, you can still use AI to manipulate Catholic theology to a very small, minute percentage to use for any argument you want to use, whether it's good or bad.
I think for me, the maturity that I'm looking for in any sort of Catholic discussion is it's can you harmonize things that feel like they shouldn't go together, that feel like they're tense. When I look at the people who wrote this document, with Father Paolo Benanti, he's a Franciscan, a third order Franciscan. He went to Gregorian. Then you have Pope Leo. He's a canon lawyer. He's an engineer. He went to the Angelicum, which is like their expertise is very scholastic, just very different than Gregorian's approach. These two people probably, if they were just, bumping into each other, would not want to write a document together. But I think it's in Pope Leo's wisdom that you combine these two methods to see the greater truth. I mean, the way that we know Pope Leo is definitely a nerd is he described truth as like a polyhedron. So, like a soccer ball is just what they're like pentagons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, 30, 40 of them just stitched together.
Old school soccer balls, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Then present day, they're polyurethane. That's like all funky designs for airflow and drag. And
yes, thank you. Also a
different podcast. Yeah, it's
fine. But he said basically what you have is a lot of Catholics online who are reflecting elements of the truth, elements of the Father, and you can say things that are completely accurate, but maybe it's not reflecting the other side of the other 30 sides of the polyhedron. The maturity I'm looking for online is for Catholic TikTokers who can really harmonize difficult subjects, because so many people are out there struggling. And quite frankly, this journey to holiness is messy. It's very, very messy. And so I think it's okay to sit there and be like, hey, I haven't figured out that side yet, but I know this is true and I'm working through that and I'm trying to discover as we go. I don't know. I think as a teacher, you probably share at least partially that perspective. But as we wrap up here, I mean, do you have any closing advice for Catholics who are, scrolling on social media, whether it's doom scrolling or they're just kind of looking for a source of hope? What would you recommend?
Oh goodness, that's a very interesting question without trying to be narcissistic and self-promoting. I would say that my thing is if you're looking for good content, I wouldn't necessarily look at creators just because of their following. I'll admit there are some creators out there who have a generous following and have good content, but like we said, there's also those who got their following because of what you said, the rage baiting. My feeling is what I try to do when I look at other content creators is I kind of ask the same question. I'm like, is what they're saying helping to promote a unity of the Catholic faith? Or is it trying to create discourse? And, you were talking earlier about content of should I kiss my significant other before marriage? Well, I remember the same creator was like, you shouldn't pray with Protestants. But the point of the video, but what people don't understand is that it's not a general prayer. Cause I mean, I pray with my Protestant family and friends constantly before meals. It's the more intimate prayer. Like, just like we don't let Protestants partake of our Eucharist because of what we believe and they don't believe it. It's that intimate prayer that you should have, like that communion type prayer. But a general prayer before dinner or praying, in fact, that actually promotes unity. You should pray with Protestants because you're bringing each other together in Christ. And so I think that when people are looking for content, that's the first thing they should always ask themselves is this person uniting the Catholic faith? Or are they trying to help Catholics? Or are they just trying to create content that's actually going to create further confusion? And am I going to have to go find another creator? It's kind of like maybe a couple months ago. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a video that came out about a family that went to go kneel at a
Oh, yeah.
at a kneeling rail. I think it was in the diocese of
Charlotte, North
Charlotte.
Carolina.
And initially I was like, oh, I got to comment on this. I need to talk about it. And then I sat back and I was like, I don't know the situation. I'm not in that diocese and I don't know everybody's perspective. So I'm not going to comment on it. And I think that's something else that people should look at is this person someone that seems like they're knowledgeable, or are they just commenting on a topic because it's the newest hot topic? I think that if they actually try to ask discerning questions and think about, like I said, what's this person promoting? Is this person trying to show unity? Are they trying to actually help Catholics with different views find common ground, or are they just giving certain Catholics more reason to hate the other side because the other side doesn't do this or the other side, you know, does this? And that's kind of why I've been trying to refocus my content on educating and sharing content that, all Catholics can like. In fact, if I can just share, I actually am excited because I've been reading a lot of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. And one of the things that I want to share with people is how Tolkien's Catholic faith can be seen in these books. And how for Catholics, when you're reading this, you're not just reading characters, you're actually reading features and traits and experiences of the Catholic faith from a Catholic. It wasn't a non-Catholic who wrote about Catholicism in a book. It's an actual Catholic. And as I've been doing this, I've been seeing so many people online have said that it helps them really appreciate the Lord of the Rings in a different light, because now they're not just seeing it as, oh, a great fantasy novel, but now they're seeing it as this is pretty much like a Catholic work where I can see the sacrament of reconciliation. I can see the saints. I can see all these different things that we as Catholics believe. And I think that more Catholics should look for that uplifting and education, not decisive stuff.
I think that's beautifully said. And it speaks to how Aquinas talked about the ultimate reason that Christ gave us the sacraments. He didn't just give them to us because he thought they'd be fun, but that they created some sort of mystical, deep, organic unity amongst the people of God. And so the sacraments were left for us. The sacraments are signs, right? And in different and other artistic ways, like reading Lord of the Rings and Narnia, right?
Yeah.
What was
Narnia.
that? What was that book called that we all read in 8th grade?
Lion, the
just
Witch, and the
Narnia?
Wardrobe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Exactly. And of course, it's so funny. I had friends down the road at non-Catholic school, and they had absolutely no idea that they were all allegories. And we were talking about, Christian sacraments within it. So it's fun. Anytime you're called out of your own culture, you have a chance to discover something in a new way. But it should be promoting the organic unity of the people of God. On that note, I will ask all of our followers, please check out Jeremy on Instagram at @CatholicDad, a Catholic Dad, and TikTok. I think it's just a Catholic Dad, right?
Yeah, all one word.
Okay.
Yeah,
all one word. Awesome. Any other platforms right now?
YouTube is the same, a.CatholicDad, but it's pretty much all the same videos. I'm just trying to reach different platforms depending upon what people have and don't have.
Heck yeah. Well, we are absolutely honored to have you back as the first return guest.
Hey, I love doing this, guys.
Well, John, any closing thoughts?
No, I was just going to say, I love the fact that he's on all these different platforms. He's playing the algorithm, if you will. I love it.
Oh, man.
I wish.
Yeah, right?
Well, as always, John and I want to express to all the listeners that if you have not found somebody to share your Catholic journey with online, in person, if you're having a hard time fitting in your parish, you are always welcome to reach out to us. Also on Instagram or TikTok. There's plenty of resources. We're happy to walk the journey with you. And we are so grateful that you are part of our Catholic family. So until next time, that is Theology for the Unwanted.